Hello everyone. In this video we will be covering a new topic for the chapter of kinematics of a particle, and we will resume our discussion about accelerated motion in this video, and we will go through uniformly accelerated motion. In our last video, we just started this topic and we introduced that a uniformly accelerated motion is a motion of a particle in which the acceleration is constant. So, the acceleration acting on a particle is constant. And as we have defined that acceleration is the rate at which the velocity is changing. So, it means that the velocity is changing. Acceleration is a vector quantity and velocity is also a vector quantity. And whenever I am saying acceleration, so in general terminology, acceleration is referred to as like increase in velocity. So because acceleration is a vector quantity, so I cannot say that the magnitude of acceleration is such that the velocity is increasing, because it also depends on the direction. If the acceleration is in the same direction to that of velocity, then only the velocity will increase. And the negative acceleration, or the acceleration which is in the opposite direction to that of velocity, is known as deceleration. So deceleration leads to decrease in velocity, because the direction of the deceleration is opposite to the direction of the velocity. So just to give an example, if I am saying that my motion of the car is in plus x direction, and the car is moving towards the plus x direction, and it's a 1D motion, and if the acceleration is supporting this motion, and let's say the direction of the acceleration should be supporting the motion and should be in this direction, then I would say that okay, the acceleration is 5 meter per second square, right? Just to give a number. And if my acceleration is opposite to that of the direction of the motion, so the acceleration would be here, then I can say that my acceleration is minus 5 meter per second square. So this minus sign indicates the nature of the opposite direction, which is opposing the motion of the particle. So here we are specifically discussing about uniformly accelerated motion. So in uniformly accelerated motion, throughout the time interval which we are considering, or throughout the motion of the particle, there is a constant acceleration acting on the particle. So first of all, we will just consider the 1D motion, because it will be easier to consider, and the equations which we will have for 1D motion are really useful, and we will be first dealing with 1D motion. So in 1D motion, if my particle is moving along this line, and this is plus x, and this is the initial position, and let's say the particle is at initial position at time t1, and this is the final position, and particle is at final position at time t2. The velocity of the particle at initial position is u, and the velocity of the particle at final position, let's say, is v. And I am not using the vector sign for any of those, because I am only considering 1D motion. So I will not be writing I cap or j cap associated with it, because even though it's not explicitly written there, but it's understood that it should be there, because I am only considering 1D motion. And just to write down that the definition, that this is the initial velocity and this is the final velocity. Now I can define the displacement. So displacement for this time interval of t2 minus t1 is final position minus initial position, and I'm writing the variable. I'm writing a variable s for this thing, and the particle is experiencing an acceleration a, and because a acceleration is constant, so it will be a single variable which will be acting on the particle throughout its motion from initial to the final position. So there are a set of 3 equations which are used again and again, and all the questions in this chapter will be using all those 3 equations, which are specifically used in case like this, which is a uniformly accelerated motion. So the first equation is v equal to u plus at. So v is my final velocity, u is my initial velocity, a is the constant acceleration which is acting on the particle, and t is the time interval. And in this case, it would be t2 minus t1. And the velocity u would be the velocity at t1, v will be the velocity at t2. And you can see that this is a equation which is coming from the formula for the acceleration itself, because we know that the acceleration or the average acceleration, because acceleration is constant, is change in the velocity upon the time interval. So v minus u upon t2 minus t1 is v minus u upon t. So we'll just take t to the left hand side and u also on the left hand side, then we'll get this equation. So this is the basic first equation which we'll be using for uniformly accelerated motions. The second equation, so the point to note is that the first equation relates acceleration, time period, and the velocities. But still we need an equation which should also use the displacement. So second equation is s equal to ut plus half a t square. So s is the displacement here, and displacement is final minus initial position, u is the initial velocity, t again is the time interval which we are talking about, plus half into a is the constant acceleration which is acting, and t is the time interval again. So all the variables are the same which we have defined, and this is the equation which is relating the initial velocity, acceleration, time period, and the displacement which has happened throughout in this time period. The third equation is s. So the third equation is written as v square equal to u square plus 2as, or just to clarify, 2a into s. So third equation does not have the term of time interval or t. It directly relates the acceleration, the constant acceleration a, displacement, and initial and final velocities. And you can always use multiple these 3 equations to get a new form of the equation, but these are the 3 basic fundamental equations which we will be using again and again to solve different questions. So let's say if I am just jumbling around, then I can easily get different forms of equations as well. Yeah. So these 3 equations, we will not be going into the derivation of these equations right now, because they can either be derived through graphical method, which they can also be derived by differentiation and integration. Till now, because we have not discussed the graphical method or differentiation and integration, so we will not be going into the explanation and how do we derive, but it will be good to just remember all these equations, and we'll be using these again and again in different problem solving, which we'll do. Other than that, it's essential to note, which I earlier also mentioned, that because all these equations are applicable only to the one dimensional motion, that's why we have removed all the vector signs from velocities and accelerations and displacements, because all of them are vectors, and because we are considering 1D motion, so there should be an I cap or j cap associated with each and every of them, every variable of them, because all these are vector quantities. But we generally leave that sign because we know that it's a 1D motion and we do not need to apply those. But if we are moving into a 2D motion, then we should be applying all the equations only in one dimension separately. So let's say if I have a question in which a ball is moving in 2 dimensions, then along the x-axis I will be using these 3 equations, where all the variables will only be related to the x-axis, and similarly the same 3 set of equations will be used in the y-axis, where all the variables will come from the motion along the y-axis. And we'll go through all those questions in the later videos as well. First of all, we'll cover a couple of examples which will use these 3 equations, and it will make the concept clear to us. So let us do an example. In this one, it is given that a particle is moving along a path, a one-dimensional path, and so the particle is at a position at 0 seconds, and the velocity right now is 0 meter per second. At 10 seconds, the particle accelerates with an acceleration a and has attained 8 meter per second as its velocity. Then for some time period, let's say at till time t1, it does not accelerate or decelerate, so the velocity is constant. So still the velocity is 8 meter per second. And then till the end point, let us consider it as time t2, the particle again decelerates, so there will be a negative acceleration associated with it, and it again comes to rest. The displacement which particle did in the last interval of t1 to t2 is 64 meters, and the overall displacement which the particle did was 584 meters. So as you can see that overall throughout from 0 seconds to t2 seconds, the acceleration was not uniform because the acceleration has changed. For a time interval from 0 to 10 seconds, there was a constant acceleration of a. For the second time interval from 10 seconds to t1, the acceleration is 0, and from t1 to t2, the acceleration is negative. So I can solve the problem using all these 3 equations by dividing the whole time interval into 3 zones. So 3 smaller time intervals. So let's say if I am considering the first time interval, which is from 0 to 10 seconds, then what are the variables which I know? I know that my initial velocity is 0, my final velocity is 8 meter per second, and my time interval is 10 seconds. So I can use the first equation to find out acceleration. So it will be v minus u upon t. So it would be 0.8 meter per second square. I can use the second equation for this time interval to find the displacement. So u is 0, but I can use half a t square, it is 0.8, into t square, which is 100. So it will be 40 meters. For the second time interval from 10 seconds to t1, the acceleration is 0. So these equations although can be applicable, but as soon as you put a equal to 0, then we'll not get anything special, we'll not get anything like interesting from that. The only thing we can see is that from 10 to t1 seconds, we can use the second equation to find the displacement. So let's say if I'm calling it as S1, the end displacement is S2, 2 represent the second time interval, then u, which is 8 meter per second for this time interval, will be 8 into t1 minus 10. And 10 seconds t1 and t2 are not related to each other but related to the 0 seconds. Then in the third time interval, which is from t1 to t2 seconds, the initial velocity is 8 meter per second because that's the velocity at the starting of the time interval. The final velocity is 0. The acceleration, let us consider it as a, and the displacement is 64 meters. We do not know the variable t because it's t2 minus t1 and we do not know it. So let us use this equation because it will be easier to use. Then we can find out a. So 64 into 2 into a should give us v square is 0, so it gives us minus 64, which is u square. So this gives us a equal to minus 0.5 meter per second square, and that is correct because so let me write it nicely. So acceleration comes out to be minus 0.5 meter per second square, and that is fine because the acceleration is supposed to be negative because the velocity is going from 8 meter per second to 0 meter per second. So okay. So the only thing I need to calculate, so there are certain variables which I still don't know, is like t1, t2 I don't know, and due to that I still don't know s2, which is the distance travelled in this part. And so yes, so let us find out all these variables. So let us also apply the second equation for the third time interval. Now we know that okay, 64 is the displacement, u is 8 meter per second, so 8 into t half. I know the acceleration now, which is minus half into t square. So but it gives a quadratic equation in t, so that complicates the overall equation a little bit, and I am assuming that if you do not know how to solve a quadratic equation, then it will be very difficult, and sometimes it's possible that a t value would not be an integer. So this is the right method, but what would be an easier method of approaching this problem? The easier method would be if I am applying the first equation to find out the time interval, because I know u, I know v, I know u, I know v, as well as I know the acceleration which I have just found out using the third equation. So here we can see that using the first equation was much more easier to find out t than using the second equation. So v is 0, u is 8, acceleration is minus half, and then t. So it gives us t equal to 16 seconds. We could have used the second equation as I have earlier mentioned, but then it would be really difficult to find out t using the quadratic equation, whereas using the first equation was pretty much straightforward, and I could easily find out the time interval the third time interval, which was 16 seconds. Now the only variable I don't know is t1, because I know that okay, t2 minus t1 is 16. So we'll just make use of the information which we have, that the overall displacement is 584 meters. So let us take sum of displacements in all three time intervals and equate it to 584 meters. So the net displacement is 584 is equal to the displacement in the first, which is 40, plus the displacement in the second, which is 8 into t1 minus 10, plus the displacement in the third time interval. So this gives me this is 104, so this is 480. So this gives me t1 minus 10 is equal to 60. So this gives us t1 equal to 70 seconds. So now I can say that, okay, if t1 equal to 70 seconds, that means that the second time interval is 70 minus 10, 60 seconds. So the second time interval 2 is 60 seconds, and the third time interval, as we have already found out, it's 16 seconds. So the total time taken by the particle for this journey would be the sum of 3 time intervals. So it would be 10 plus 60 plus 16, it would be 86 seconds. So as you have seen that in this question, we had different time intervals, because in each of the time intervals the acceleration value was different, although the acceleration was constant, but we could separate these 3 time intervals depending on the acceleration which was present in that time interval. Other than that, we also, while solving, we looked at the method of using these 3 equations, that how do we define the initial velocity and final velocity, because these are dependent only in the time interval which we are talking about. And we also saw that it might not be useful just to apply all the equations blindly, because one equation can be easily applied than the other equation. So like in this example, we just saw that second equation was giving us 2 variables, two answers for the time interval, while using the first equation gave us a very straightforward answer of 16 seconds. So we have discussed the uniformly accelerated motion, in which we are discussing about the constant acceleration, but we have not touched upon the concepts of instantaneous acceleration and instantaneous velocity, which we will be covering in the next video in this series of videos. Thank you.